Psychosorcerer here, and today I wanted to talk to you about some tips for getting started with magic. Now, I've gotten questions very frequently from different viewers asking me where to get started. Some people come to me and they say, hey, can you recommend a book for a beginner? I'm interested in getting started in these different occult practices. Whereas other people come to me and they say something like, what would you recommend I start with as a beginner? And that's what I'd like to address here today. Let's start by talking about books. Now, I don't have the experience of having learned from a particular book. In my experience, I was someone who studied the occult for a long time before I started practicing it. So for me, I had years of reading, and then finally decided to dive in. So I don't have any one source that I started from. I have a whole bunch of influences from a whole bunch of texts that kind of came together and made me say, okay, let me try these things I'm feeling like trying out. And then through trial and error, I figured out what worked and didn't work. So I don't really have a good recommendation for a book to begin. And it's not that there aren't books out there that are perhaps geared toward beginners, but as someone who never started out that way, I couldn't tell you if they're good. So what I ask as far as that is, if you're somebody who has a book recommendation on something that's a good beginner book, could you please put it in the comments section below for those who are interested in that information, and we'll use this particular video post as a repository for those books. As far as what I would suggest for beginners to do, it actually isn't to start with magic particularly, but rather with meditation. I know I immediately cause some people to groan as soon as I say that, because meditation is actually not very easy. But rest assured, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not having trouble doing meditation because of a problem with yourself. It's that meditation is kind of like exercise. You've got to practice at it a lot in order for it to become useful. The reason that I say meditation is important is because the different disciplines you learn through meditation are used in all magical practices. So it's the one thing you can do that will definitely help you no matter what magical path you end up taking. And once you've, I don't want to say mastered, but once you've gotten a good grasp on meditation, you're ready to dive into whatever magical practice you'd like. And my suggestion there is literally find something that you are drawn to try it out. If it doesn't work, try something else. And eventually you find what you like. Now, what I've found from talking to other people who do magic is that there's no one right way to do magic, that most of us are drawn to certain paths and are good at certain forms of magic and bad at other forms of magic. I try to kind of do a general sense of what magic is on this channel, but I myself have my own practices that I stick to pretty religiously because they're what work for me, while I know other people who are able to get the same results through other practices. So I can't explain fully why some practices work better for some than others, but it has something to do with our own personal makeup. So the only way to really find the best magic for you is to try a bunch of different magic out and see what practices work. Now let's get into meditation. I've kind of given an overview of meditation before, but I've never really gotten into the basics of how to do it. And a lot of people, when they hear meditation, they think of simply sitting, trying not to think, and that's the end of it. But there's actually a few different forms of meditation that I want to go over today, and if you can master what I consider to be the 3 different forms of meditation, then you're actually going to be ready to start any magical practice that you want. The first one is the most important. It's the one you need no matter what. The others you might be able to do without, but the first one you have to even do the other 2. So the first form of meditation we're going to talk about is the basic form of meditation that most people know about. What you want to do is you want to sit or get into a comfortable position, but don't lay down, and try to keep your back as straight as possible while also being relaxed. Now, I know that may sound contradictory, because if you try to sit as straight as possible, you're going to firm up all your muscles. Well, that's not what you want. It's not important that your back is completely straight. If you have a slight slouch whenever you're relaxed, that's okay. Just don't get into a really slouch posture. Get as straight as you can while still being relaxed. Once you do that, relax all of your muscles. In fact, it's sometimes good to visualize, most people say, an energy coming and washing over your body, but the reason for this is that you're actually visualizing all of your muscles relaxing. You can just as easily visualize the muscles relaxing in your head, then in your eyes, then in your nose, then in your mouth, then in your throat, then in your shoulders, then in your arms and chest, then down through your stomach, into your legs, and out of your feet. The whole goal is just to get into that relaxed mode before you get started. Once you're relaxed, some people like to close their eyes, some leave it open. It actually doesn't matter. I think it's easiest for beginners if they're closed, but it is not a requirement. you're going to do a practice called breath visualization. This is what I found works the best for beginners. There's tons of different ways to meditate. If you're interested in looking for other options, there are many books on how to get into a meditative state, but what we're going over here is focusing on breathing. Now what you're going to do is concentrate on yourself breathing in and breathing out, and you want to take big breaths. You're going to try to breathe from your belly. If you focus on your belly when you breathe, you'll notice that the air comes in much deeper and you fill your lungs much more full. This is one of the reasons you don't want to meditate while you're lying down, is because your lungs can't expand as far when you're lying down. Another reason is because you might fall asleep, and that ends your meditation right there. So breathe in deeply, hold it, and then breathe out. Now there are different people who have different methods as to whether you want to count or have a certain amount of time in, out, out, in. Some people use a 4 count in, a 4 count hold, a 4 count out. That's pretty standard. It really doesn't matter that you have a certain amount of time. It's more the act of breathing in, holding, breathing out. Some people swear that it's better if you breathe through your nose. I found that you can still do this with mouth breathing as well. A combination of the two is good as well. I do find that breathing through your nose seems to work better. It seems to be more calming. But if you're someone who has nasal problems, you can still meditate. You don't have to rely entirely on using only your nose to breathe. When you breathe in, hold, and breathe out, you're going to concentrate on the feeling of having the air come in, hold within your lungs, and then go out. You're also going to visualize the air, or perhaps energy, if it's easier to visualize the air as energy, coming into you, swirling within you, and going back out. So your visualization is energy coming in, energy holding, swirling through your body, energy going back out. And at first it may be intuitive to see this as if the energy is coming into your nose and mouth because you're breathing in and holding in your lungs and then coming back out. But as you do this more, you'll find that you almost are intuitively drawn to just seeing the energy come into your entire body and then expanding back out again. And that's what you want. You're going to concentrate on that and nothing but that. You're not going to analyze it. You're not going to allow your thoughts to drift to other things and try to visualize it at the same time. The whole goal here is to get your conscious mind to focus purely on this visualization so that it doesn't think about anything else. Your subconscious is going to continue to be in the moment. It'll be aware. You don't have to worry about someone sneaking up on you or weird things happening because your subconscious has got your back. Your conscious mind is what you're trying to distract. The breathing and the energy view and all of that, it's not a magical thing in and of itself. You're not visualizing the energy because you're getting energized. It's nothing to that effect. It's a method of getting your mind, your conscious mind, to focus on something other than whatever thoughts are floating around in your head. Now you're going to do this for 5 minutes, and it's best to set a timer and don't think about the time. Your goal at first is just to get through the 5 minutes. And I know that sounds like, it's 5 minutes, it shouldn't be so hard. It can be excruciating when you first get started. You may not get any value out of the meditation at first because your entire goal is just getting yourself to sit still and concentrate on breathing for 5 minutes. Man, every time your mind starts to wander, pull it back to concentrating on breathing. Anytime you start to think, oh, I don't feel like doing this, pull it back to concentrating on breathing. If you have an itch or need to move, do your best to ignore it and concentrate on breathing. Once in a while, if there's something that definitely needs your attention, take care of it, return to breathing. But for the most part, try your best to ignore the outside world, concentrate on your breathing. Now once you've got that down, then you can start to advance. Now, I found for me, it only took a few weeks of doing this daily for 5 minutes before I started to see other benefits. Some people say it takes a month. But the goal is, at first, just to get yourself to be able to do this. This helps to increase your self-control. And by the way that I view things, if you don't have enough self-control to make yourself sit still for 5 minutes, then you're not ready for magic. So that's why this is number one. And it's not a matter of needing to be more aware of yourself before you start magic, or needing to be a better person or anything like that, so much as magic requires a great degree of self-control in order to do. So if you don't have that level of self-control, you probably won't succeed. Once you can do this for 5 minutes, what you're really going to start trying to look for is these moments of serenity, these moments of silence, a moment where the visualization of breathing in and out kind of fades away, and even though you can still visualize it, you stop thinking about it, and you just feel for a moment as if you're lucid and in the moment. You have no other thoughts running through your head, you're just calm and still. And that's exactly what you're looking for. That feeling is what we call a meditative state. When I talk about the meditative state, that's what we're talking about. That's what you're trying to get. Now, a lot of people get hung up on the idea that you're going to eventually become some great meditator who gets in the posture, goes right into that state, stays in that state the whole time you're meditating, and then comes out. That's not typical. Typically, you're going to go in and out of that state. It's going to pulse with you. At the beginning, you may spend 5 minutes trying this breathing technique and get a few seconds of serenity. If you do that, you're being successful. Don't think of that. Don't get frustrated. Don't go, oh, I only did it for a few seconds. I felt it. I'm almost there. No, you are there. The goal is to feel it for at least a few seconds. If you're doing that, you're doing well. And I'll tell you why. If you're someone who has stress in your life, if you're someone who has a lot of things going through your head that build and build and build and cause stress, having a single moment of true serenity where you're not thinking at all about all of that stuff will do wonders for you. You're going to come out of your meditation feeling almost as if a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders. And if you do this every day and you feel even a few seconds of serenity every day, each day when that happens, it's like a reset. It's like starting over refresh. Now, it's not a replacement for sleep. You still need to get enough sleep every night or you're going to get worn down. But it really does help relieve stress, and that's a beautiful thing, a very wonderful thing. The other thing it is it's getting you in touch with your subconscious mind, because for that moment you're experiencing the subconscious only in the moment without worrying about time or issues or what's coming up or anything of that nature, and that's what you're looking for. Now, once you've done this for 5 minutes, you may or may not have succeeded in getting a few seconds of serenity yet, but once you've accomplished 5 minutes, if you're ready to move on to something else, but you don't feel like you've quite got this down yet, the next thing you can move on to is expanding the amount of time that you meditate for. I say that 10 to 15 minutes of meditation is actually good even for a practitioner in magic. That you don't need to spend more than 10 to 15 minutes meditating a day as long as you're feeling some serenity during it. Some people recommend 30 minutes or more. It's really up to the individual. It's up to you to figure out what works for you. I think for beginners who haven't really done a lot in magic yet, 10 minutes is fine. And so expanding from 5 to 10 minutes is it's actually expanding to the full length of time you're eventually going to be doing this for, unless you choose to do otherwise. Now, in 10 minutes, it is excruciatingly more difficult to do this at first. You think it was hard to build up to going 5 minutes without having a problem and wanting to move. 10 minutes will feel like pain almost at the end. But the goal is just to reach that point, to have enough self-control to do this for 10 minutes. Once you've got it for 10 minutes, and once you're able to concentrate on your breathing for 10 minutes, you should definitely by that point also be finding these moments of serenity in your practice. If you're not, just keep trying until you do. Some people will have it at 5 minutes, and they may try to move on to this next step before expanding to 10 minutes. Eventually, though, go to 10 minutes or longer. Once you start feeling these moments of serenity, and you'll know it, you'll feel it, and once you're able to do this where every day, because you're meditating every day, once every day you feel at least a second or more of serenity during your meditation, once you reach that where it's every single day, then your mind now knows what it feels like to be in that state, and you're ready to move on to the next step. The next step is to let go of the visualization. You're going to try to meditate, not to think about anything, but without visualizing something to distract your conscious mind. This is much, much harder, but very important before moving on. Now, you can still visualize something if thoughts come up. So, for example, Perhaps start with the breathing exercise just to get yourself back to feeling like you always have with meditation, but once you reach a very relaxed state, then cut that visualization away and try your best to just experience being with no other visualization going on. You will either get moments of serenity or you won't, but just keep that state. And every time your mind starts to think of absolutely anything, you have to quiet it. But the way to quiet it is not through anger, not through emotion, but rather visualize a stream flowing past you. And take those thoughts visibly and drop them in the stream and allow them to float away. And then return to thinking about nothing. And you'll find this works if you really truly try it. Now, the goal here is to eventually get to a point where when you meditate, you don't have to rely on visualizations in order to quiet your mind. When you hit these moments of serenity and silence while doing it this way, your conscious mind will also experience it, instead of it just being a passing feeling. And this is a unique sensation because at first what you're going to notice is that it becomes harder to have these moments, because when you start to feel it, your conscious mind will try to analyze it immediately. It's going to be like, oh no, here we go, it's happening, and you're like, shh, go down the stream. But eventually you get used to this. And what you're doing here is actually pairing the conscious and subconscious together during these moments of serenity, which, if you've been paying attention to my other lectures, is crucially important to all magic. Once you can meditate for 10 minutes or more, and during that time you're able to use visualization only as needed to keep your mind from getting distracted and be in the moment for at least a few seconds, you're good. That's meditation. You've accomplished it. Doing it more and more and more daily, you'll have longer and longer periods of serenity, but the goal is not to have an entirely massive long point of serenity, it's just to experience that serenity in some way, shape, or form. You've now mastered what I consider to be basic meditation. Now once you have that, you're ready to move on to the other two types of meditation I mentioned before. The next type of meditation is called Tritaka. Now in Tritaka your eyes must be open because you're going to be focusing on something outside of yourself while meditating. The goal with Tritaka is to increase your focus, to be able to control what you're focused on and keep yourself focused on a single thing for a long period of time. Tritaka does not replace your other meditation. You still need to meditate every day. Some people can do Tritaka and still also find points of serenity while doing that. If so, it can replace your old meditation. If not, you still need to do your original meditation so that you have those moments of serenity, so you continue to build on that. And then you also need to do a Tritaka meditation. Tritaka meditation, again, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what you want to do. You're going to stare at an object. You're not going to analyze that object, you're just going to focus on it. You can blink in order to help keep your eyes from going dry or hurting, but you're mostly going to find that you have a problem remembering to blink. Sometimes it'll pull you out of the meditation to blink, but that's okay. Make sure to keep yourself healthy. What you don't want to do is focus on anything else. You keep your focus on the object. You keep 100% focused on the object constantly. The only break is in the blinking. And what you're doing here is you're training your mind to focus extremely well. Most of us can accomplish very interesting, very minute, very spectacular tasks over a period of time. We've gained the ability to focus on something enough to get it done. But if you pay attention to what you're actually focused on while doing the task, you spend some time on the task, some time thinking, some time on the task, some time doing something else for a moment, some time on the task, and just eventually get it done. What this is training you to do is to focus everything on one thing, which you're going to find even a few seconds of this is hard. Over time, you get it, and what you want to do is be able to focus for that entire length of time. This could take months to build up, but the goal is just to have that control over your focus, and this again builds self-control. But what this is also doing is building control over your conscious mind. And having control of your conscious mind is important if you're going to use your conscious mind to influence your subconscious, which gets us on to meditation 3. So the third form of meditation, which you're going to do after you've mastered Tritaka, and again when I use the word mastered, I just mean you've done it. The third form of meditation is to visualize something while meditating. Now you can do this with your eyes closed or open, And now, instead of with Tritaka where you're looking at some physical object, now you're just visualizing something in your mind and concentrating on it. I should mention too, before moving on, that in Tritaka the common objects to look at are either a candle's flame, or the moon if you're out at night, or a star, or a point on the wall. And most people will draw a small dot on the wall and stare at that. It's something very basic, very simple that you can stare at for a long period of time. Now with the visualization meditation, meditation number 3, you're no longer trying to focus without concentrating on specifics. Instead, you're actually going to try to design something in your mind. You're going to try to visualize something fully in your mind. Perhaps start with simple geometric figures, a sphere, a square, a triangle, a diamond, etc. And then eventually move on to objects in the home, a chair, a table, which will start out as crude versions, but as you get better at visualization, they're going to become more detailed, and that's what you want. The goal here is to be able to take what you learn from Tritaka, the ability to just focus on one thing, and then merge that with your creative side, which is actually partially from your subconscious, but to merge that to be able to create something, to focus entirely on the creation of a visual mental construct in your mind. Now when you're done with the meditation, you're going to allow that construct to dissipate and go away. And you're going to go back to your regular state. Now if you can somehow find serenity while doing this, this can replace your original meditation. If not, this can still replace the Tritaka meditation, but you still need to do serenity meditation as well. Some people will blend them. Maybe you'll do 10 minutes of meditation where the first 5 is just finding that serene state, and the next 5 is this visualization. That's fine. Eventually, when you find that you can really see these objects in your mind's eye, and that's what you're working on here, is getting in touch with your mind's eye. You can really see them whenever you focus on them. Then you're willing to take this to the next step, and the next step is actually a form of magic. Visualize something that you want, something you want to have come to you. Visualize it as clearly as possible, and while you're visualizing it, experience the feeling, the emotion, as if you actually have it in reality, and that is calling upon your subconscious mind to believe this. Your conscious is now implanting this concept into your subconscious, that it has it. Once you have that feeling, allow it to dissipate out from you, but see it go out as energy into the world. And then concentrate on that serene feeling, that serene state that we did in our original meditation, and allow all the thoughts to drop off and disappear. This is letting it go completely from your mind. And when you're done, don't think back on it. And what you'll find is, in many cases, the thing that you visualized will come to you in the next few days, weeks, months, in some form or another. Now you have to be open to the opportunities. It's not just going to appear before you in your room. You're not going to have someone walk up and hand it to you most of the time. But if there's an opportunity to get something of that nature, it's going to come to you much more readily because of this. And this is a form of spellcasting. This form of spellcasting also uses all of the forms of meditation we just talked about. And for beginners, this is what I recommend. Learn these forms of meditation, try this final state of meditation. What you'll find when you do that is that you start to get some good results, but it's a little shaky because there's no real rule set around it. And at this point you go, I want something a little more firm, a little more direct, a little more assured to work, and that's when you start looking for your path in magic to do exactly that. But now you've had success already. You already know what it feels like. You already know what you're looking for. You already know the meditative state. You already know what it's like to have your conscious and subconscious, at least for a moment, sit with each other in silence. And that's what you need in order to perform every form of magic. Another thing a beginner can do is mantras. If you have something about yourself you want to change, come up with a phrase or saying that is an affirmment. It is something that says you are this, and every morning or every night say the phrase and then go about your day, and each day do it, and every time you do it, feel it passionately. You may do this in front of a mirror. I know this sounds like self-help, but this is mantras. And mantras you don't need to have any other magical experience or meditative experience to do, and they can still work wonders in your life for self-transformation. So my recommendation is, if you want to make change now, start with mantras. If you want to become someone involved in occult and spellcasting, do meditation. If you want to do both right now. Get started. And that's about it. As far as building mantras, it's good to use positive language and not negative language. I found that in the New Age community, this sometimes get confused. People say use positive affirmations and they think they mean say good things, but that's not what we mean. We mean don't use negatives in your affirmation. For example, if you were to say I am strong, that's a better affirmation than I am not weak, because the word not is a negative. If you were to say I am not strong, I am weak is actually a better choice. Now obviously you don't want to do an affirmation that says I am weak, but the point is that I am weak is a positive affirmation. It has no negative terms. Sure, weakness is considered a negative in our culture, but there are no nots, no's, doesn'ts, words like that. So again, strength is usually the easier example. I am not weak is a very bad affirmation. I am strong is a good affirmation. And that does it for today's lecture. If you have any questions about other things for beginners or any questions about this, let me know. Honestly, if you master everything that I'm talking about here, and it could take you a year, but geez, if you do it, you're great. You're golden for the rest of this. The next thing is just to start practicing whatever magic fancies you. A lot of you will try magic before you finish this. That's fine. I did the same thing. I didn't get the whole way through all these steps before I started, but these steps I did eventually finish, and they do make you better at the craft. Until next time, safe travels.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and sharing it on social media. If you'd like to stay updated with my latest videos, please click subscribe. If you have a comment or question, please feel free to leave it below or on my Facebook page. And if you'd like to see some of my previous work, check out Psycho Sorcerer channel on YouTube. If you're interested in learning about the occult, I've got an over 35-part lecture series. You can reach that by clicking on the video in the top left. I've also got an ongoing series on the ancient gods and how they're called upon in magic. If you're interested in that, that's in the top right. I've got a series on theories from conspiracies to big questions in the bottom left, and tips for a better life through magic in the bottom right. If you can't click on any of these videos because you're on a phone or tablet that doesn't support it, you can always go to my channel and check out the playlist section. I've got everything broken down into playlists there. There's also an additional playlist of me making a complete fool of myself doing various pop culture things, including pretending to be a character that's what pop culture thinks a sorcerer would be. As always, I thank you for your support, and until next time, safe travels.